I wanted to do a video today about the front end, the roll center, spring placement, and what I see going on in dirt late model racing now. So let's roll the intro and let's talk a little bit about the front end. I've spent the last 30 plus years working on race cars, building race cars, and racing cars. And I'm here to help you better understand racing technology. First thing I want to do about the front end is kind of define how I figure roll centers. I know traditionally a roll center is the force combination in the front with the extended planes from the upper and lower control arms and everything, but I actually think there are two roll centers. And I was taught this by a Formula One engineer. And what it is there's one roll center that is what is considered the force line intercept. And there's tons of videos, there's tons of documentation how to figure this out, but it's basically lines extended off your upper and lower control arms, your ball joints, your pivots, and where they intersect, and then where they intersect with the center of the tire. But what I also wanted to bring into play is what I call an elastic roll center. And what I see mainly lately is the cars are pivoting around the left front tire, which tells me that the roll center is somewhere around the center of that contact patch or something. But it takes a combination of what I call the elastic roll center and the force line intercept to get that to happen. Now, let's pretend with an elastic roll center, you put a solid ride height bar in the left front and you put a 100-pound spring in the right front. That front end will actually pivot off that solid bar because that can't compress anymore. And then as the right front compresses with a 100-pound spring or whatever, you can actually see that that car will pivot around that left front tire. But now I know we used to run around a 5 1/4, 550 for a left front, sometimes a 600 if we wanted to keep side bite in with the right rear, which that diagonal wedging on the brake seems to hold wedge in that right rear and tighten you up in off the gas. But now a lot of teams and a lot of chassis manufacturers are recommending going to a softer right front, 500, even 450 I've heard, which is telling me if all the cars are pivoting off that left front, they're doing it with a combination of the force line intercept and the springs and how everything goes. I actually think I like the idea of the front end pivoting around the left front tire because it keeps the front end planted, but figuring out where that roll center is, I think they both need to match now. I mean, you're going to have you're going to want your force line intercept a little closer to the left front. You're going to want your since we are softening that left front now and we're keeping that rigid and you want that whole thing to roll, I think they both have to kind of jive over there. I actually think the force line intercept may have to be a little bit further left so you can put a softer spring and still get it to pivot around that left front tire. We always used to, I mean, old school stuff was putting the roll center in the front, maybe even a little bit right. But now I think the ideal thing is to get that thing to pivot. You can tell this when these cars are rolling around in the pits and there is no room between the ground and the left front little skirting there that comes off the nose. I always used to have a rule of thumb. I need to take my foot when the car is sitting in the pits, run my foot underneath that left front skirting in order to have enough room. Nowadays, I, I mean, they're tight on the ground. They're within a couple inches. And it's very, very interesting. But if that left front compresses at all, you're going to dig the left front skirt in. So that's telling me that the whole thing is pivoting around that left front. And to do that with a softer left front spring, you got to have that force line intercept and the front springs to jive just right in order to not dig in that left front skirting. I see a lot of the pro guys now when I watch it on TV, they got it figured out. Maybe some manufacturers do, but I see other manufacturers that probably don't have it figured out now. But that's why I'm making the video. I just wanted everybody to kind of be aware of what I'm seeing and just take what I give you. If you agree with it, take it and run. More information to you. Another thing I wanted to kind of bring up and brush up on topics a little bit is the difference between a stacked right front and a soft single spring right front. A lot of people like the soft single spring right fronts because they are more forgiving, they're more drivable. This is the caveat. I actually like the stacked right front better, but the problem is that you have to keep the car glued on that bottom spring, and you have to have enough free height in that bottom spring to get it to work. A lot of guys are going to like a 2/7, but is a 2/7 soft enough to get the thing to roll up on that right front and sit there? If you can get your car, so basically when you just left front or left feed into it with the steering wheel, that car rolls up and gets into race position. You don't want to have to hit the corner at the same speed every time just to get it into that race position, because then when you get on the straightaway, that spring tension in that right front's going to want to pop you back up. So it's kind of a fine line. If you are running on a track that is like biting some places and then maybe slick spot in the other, and you got to slide across the slick and then get back with it, a single spring is probably a little bit better because it'll handle the slick, it'll handle the bite, but you gotta watch out how soft you go with that single right front spring, because the softer your right front spring will take actual wedge out of the car. So when that left rear hikes up and you got all that force driving that left rear tire forward, it's driving the right front into the ground. If there's no spring there, the right front's just gonna collapse and then blow the left rear tire free. You'll lose all your dynamic wedge. Some guys are putting bump stops in there, and I think if you're gonna go with like a 200 or a 175 spring up there, you need to have your bump stop and packer figured out. They're pretty good. for a single spring if you're going to go that soft. Because basically when your car rears up and your left rear is pushing forward and your left rear is digging, you need to have that solid enough platform on the right front to keep that left rear digging. If that left rear can dig in there and the right front keeps compressing, that left rear tire will blow off and you'll lose all your left rear traction, all your wedge. Here's the thing with the stacked right front. You can get that initial rate very, very soft. I actually like a stacked right front and as soft as I can get it. They used to say just as long as you can get it off the trailer. And then everything else is done with that little dive spring in the bottom, and that can range anywhere from 700 to 1,000. But you need to have, if you're going softer with that little dive spring around a 700, that's going to need some give to it. So you're going to have a little bit of extra free height. I think Eibach makes those dive springs you put inside the cup on the right front, and it has extra free height, extra room between the coils, so it gives you a 700-pound rate on the downstroke, but it's also got enough free height so you can run over the bumps a little bit and still get that drive. Stacking a right front with like the 2 and the 7 or whatever it is, now they're doing 3 and a 7, you have to get that thing, like I said before, so that car will roll up on that right front, and you have to get that lockout figured out just right so that that right front never comes off of that 700-pound spring when you hit the straightaway. You got to stay on that 700 to keep that drive in the car. That's the reason for that. That's really, in my mind, the only reason to stack a right front is to be able to get the car at that race attitude really fast and keep it there consistency. The more you have with that bottom spring also, remember that you have to bump up your rebound, because a softer rebound, a lot of times, softer rebound gives you traction. So if you can take and reduce rebound on your right front, but the 700-pound bottom spring, in order to keep it there, you got to have extra rebound, because once that shock floats off that spring with that 700 bottom, you're going to lose traction. And too little rebound up there will get that right front to float, and you're going to lose all your drive. So the best thing, probably in my mind, if you're just running and you're a weekly racer and you want to be very consistent and have a car that's more drivable all the way around, I would go with a single spring right front and just tune it a little bit, and keep in mind that a softer spring will lose your wedge. You may have to put a bump stop in there with some packers to figure it all out and get all your heights the same, and just tune throughout the night. As that corner entry slows up, then when the track dries out and it's slick, you're going to want to maybe add a little bit of packer in there, because the car is not going to have as much lateral force and load on that right front getting in. So you're going to have to help it along by taking some packer out or putting some packers in throughout the night. You want to keep that height the same on the right front and keep that right front loaded. The last thing I wanted to touch on today is what I've seen in the drivers. And Driving is probably the most important thing you can do today in working on your driving, because these cars are so close and so tight. We now need drivers to step up and fill in those little bit of gaps. And what I notice is the better drivers, we got one, maybe two in the area here by me that do it really well. And national guys usually do it pretty well. The way to pass cars now, it seems like, is to slide them, slide jobs. And that means with a slide job that it's usually your car is too tight because it won't turn the corner. So a slide job is the way to go to pass cars, but you have to keep it so when that car tightens up in the middle, I call it trail it in or follow it up. If you start turning your wheels and on a tight car, turning that wheel left to correct that tightness will shear the contact patches. So you got to have your driving figured out so you follow that thing through and then just let it float up and float off. It's all a timing thing. If you like this video, you can see all my videos at Hogan Technologies on YouTube. Go to my Facebook page. If you hit that like button, you can like this video and you can also subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.